anxiety was through the roof, and I was really going through it. So it feels good to really be in a calm, stable space. Of course, with everything going on, basically grieving daily. You're feeling everything that
Yeah.
everybody's going through. So it can be hard, but I make sure I find time to really recenter and tune in and deal with those things.
Yeah, that's real. And I think with that, and especially with the type of work that you have been doing, especially with the documentary and everything, I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that going through a pandemic, even going through the revolution. I was just talking to somebody the other day, like with social media, we see everything. It used to be a moment in time where, you only heard about death when you were invited to the funeral. But now with social media, like there's videos, there's blogs. I mean, within seconds, you know how many people have been hurt, how many people have been shot. And so I think a lot of times it's so important to like take that step back away from social media and truly acknowledge. And I also think that's how we learn to deal with our grief and our trauma as well. So that's so good. That's so good. Thank you.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So I see a couple people just joined us. If you just joined us, I see that Facebook was tripping at the beginning. So we'll circle back around and do another introduction because I Facebook was doing something. But
Okay.
nevertheless, we're gonna keep rolling with the show. So we will keep rolling with the show. For those of you who had just tuned in, this is Sharee. She is a writer, she is a director, she is a producer. If you have not heard, she has a documentary, Black Girl Blue, which is phenomenal. This is how I met her and have been able to work with her. I am 100% a supporter of her and everything that this community and everything that the documentary represents. So she is our guest today. We'll circle back around to like just kind of get into her because for whatever reason Facebook was hating, but that's okay. So Sharee, so I asked this to all of my guests. So anytime you come on the show, the first question that we always ask guests, can you describe a time that you were dealing with grief? So basically, can you describe that time? How did you feel? And did you ever get through it? And if you did, what was that process like? So I know it's a lot of questions, so if we gotta, break it up, we
Hmm.
can. But basically,
Okay.
and it can be any type of grief. It could be, death. It could be a job loss, but just a time that really sticks out in your head of you grieving.
Yeah, I would say 4 years ago, well, almost 4 years ago, when my favorite uncle passed away. It was extremely unexpected. Like my mom and I, we would take walks twice a week, so we were on our weekly walk, and my grandmother kept calling her, and she was like, "I'll make sure I call her when we get back, because we walk and we exercising, so it's kind of a hard time to take a phone call." So then she started calling me, and I was like, something cannot be right if she's really, trying to get to us. So I
Mm-hmm.
answered the phone, and she told me that my uncle had passed, and I just remember just this letting
Yeah.
out this yell or this cry that I had never, let out before. And of course, I mean, I was just crushed. Like that was the one person who I felt like I could talk to about
Mm-hmm.
any and everything. I never felt judged. He always understood me, and I just always felt like I could be myself. So that person was now, no longer here. As far as dealing with it, that's why Black Girl Blue is here, because I did not deal with it. I didn't even know, what that looked like. Like you said, we go to funerals, we go to wakes, we go to the repast, and we know what that whole process is like. But actually grieving someone, I had no clue. I mean, I was aware of the different steps of grieving, but I just immediately went into the mode like, I gotta be okay. I'm gonna be okay. So I got stuff to do. I have dreams to
Mm-hmm.
focus on. So I just fill all my time with that. Until it got to a point a couple years later or about a year or so later, and that wasn't enough. Um, so of course I got depressed, and what really started my healing journey was I said, okay, I'm gonna let myself feel what I'm feeling. So that meant for about 3 days I was crying, but that was the
Mm.
release that I needed to start the healing process. And so from there I just started. I wrote a letter to him in my journal. I would, you know, try to focus on the good times and the love that we shared, and just chose something to honor him on the day that he left this earth, and as well as his birthday. Just keep living, because I know that that's what he would have wanted me to do, to make my dreams come true and to do some of the things that he
Right.
didn't get to do before he left. So yeah.
Right. That that's so real. That is so real. The mentality of I have to be strong, I have to move on, I have to do. So, what is one thing like in that situation particularly that you wish somebody would have told you in dealing with that situation?
I wish somebody would have told me to, like, let yourself cry. Like, if just let yourself cry if you need to cry, because the thing about it is, it happened, I think, a couple of weeks before my husband graduated from with his degree. So I had to plan his
Mm-hmm.
party for his graduation, make sure he had everything. And then at the same time, we were planning a funeral. And so I wish somebody would have just said, just cry, just feel what you feel. That's the only way you're going to get to
Mm,
that point where you feel okay.
wow. Wow. That is so that is so deep because I just feel like whenever somebody dies, it's like, okay, we know people die, right? So
Hmm.
it's like at one point we're almost taught like expecting people die, one day you gonna die, get over it. And then the other part
Hmm.
is like, like this really hurt me. I'm
Hmm.
really hurt. On top of like you said, your husband was graduated. So how do I celebrate this magnificent
Yeah.
milestone? But then I have to come over here and plan this. Like, how do I coexist with both of them? And how do I become okay with not being okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's so good. Did it like and I hope anybody that's listening to this right now because we have dealt with so much death in society. Like I hope that when you listen to this, you hear that like it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have those feelings that you have. It's okay to cry. It's okay. Like I said the other day on my Healing She Got Faith page, somebody today needs to hear this. If you need to cry, go ahead and cry because too many
Mm.
times we're trying to be this strong person. And I just want to ask y'all, who told y'all had to be strong? Who told y'all that? Did anybody
No, I
say?
mean, I guess, seeing mama, grandma, auntie, seeing them doing what they was normally doing beforehand, like nothing happened. I mean, I guess we saw it, so that's what we learned to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's part of how I created Healing She Got Faith as well. It was kind of you see the hustle and bustle of mom. Like
Hmm.
for me personally, I saw mom as a breadwinner. I saw her constantly going to work. I saw her constantly doing everything. And like both of my parents are deceased. So I look at that and I'm like, I wish I would have had the opportunity for them to just rest. Like I wish I could have
Hmm.
be myself right now and have them two right here and it's okay for you to rest. Like you don't have to be the superhero today. It's okay for you to sleep. So, and I think for me, I felt like when I was in my grieving process, I was going crazy because I wasn't
Yes.
acknowledging that grief. I didn't know how to coexist with life and with grief. So it was definitely one of those situations that was just kind of like I really don't know what to do at this moment in time. So
Yeah,
in
that's
this
definitely a perfect way to
moment,
describe it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I felt lost. I was
Yeah.
like, who am I? Like, what? How do I exist in this world without that person being here? But yeah.
Yeah. Um, so in that situation with everything you had going on, what did support look like for you? And if you didn't have it, how would you imagine it being?
So I would say support looked like, my husband was very supportive. I would say it looked like him listening to me sharing my feelings. Um, if I felt, guilty about not being able to do this or not, calling him or something like that, he would assure me that, that my uncle knew that I loved him, and that I cherished our relationship. And um, when I want to tell, stories about things that I remember, he would be there to listen and, console me, hug me, comfort me. So that's what it looked like from him. I think from other people, it looks like, just being there sometimes. Like, you may not even need to say anything, but just letting someone know that you're there if they need somebody to talk to. Um,
That's
I
good.
think that would be the main thing is, and like, if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. Sometimes that's the best thing to do, is not say anything, especially if because I feel like with grief a lot of times, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too, because before you really have to go through it and grieve somebody who you were so connected to, I don't think you really understand. But we get into these like automatic reply responses when it comes to people hurting, and we mean well, but they're really like filler filler phrases
Yeah.
and things that don't really don't help. I mean, not to say that the attempt isn't appreciated, but I feel like, for me, like, when I had somebody who was grieving recently, I just encouraged them to feel what they were feeling, like, or letting them know it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to have the thoughts that you're having, have the feelings that you're having, to encourage them to maybe write if that relieves them somehow, or create or do something that reminds them of that person. I think that would have been helpful for me.
Yeah. That's so good. I actually have that in the question. Like, what's one thing you would tell people in the future, like, like, as far as like supporting you? And I think one of the key things you said was, don't go to the cliche answers. Like, just allow, like, if you don't have nothing to say, just don't say it. Like, one of my main things is stop telling people who are grieving that they're so strong. They don't want to
Hmm.
hear that. They
Right.
don't need to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They want the okay to know that what I'm feeling is real, because I think a lot of people forget, like, grief is also a physical feeling. It's not just
Yeah.
you feeling like your heart is broken, but it's like your stomach is hurting. You can't sleep,
Hmm.
you can't breathe. It's almost like, and I actually was reading up on this, like, grief, anxiety, and depression have so many of the similar, like,
Hmm.
symptoms. So,
Hmm.
like, a lot of people will be grieving and then they think they're depressed, or maybe grief and depression is coexistent. But one of the things is, like, when somebody, like with me, I lost both of my parents, like, and so a lot of times people were coming like, oh, you're so strong, and oh, you and your siblings are so, we don't care. We
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Like, we want mommy and daddy back.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you go back to that little person. So you kind of have already answered that. Like, if you don't got nothing to say, you know, don't say
Keep
it.
it to yourself, or
Don't say it.
go
Yeah.
consult a book or something, or figure out, what's the best way to to be for that person at that time. So yeah.
Yeah. So my next question, I feel like you're an expert in this question just because of your documentary and everything. But I oftentimes speak about a grieving society. And where this kind of came up is when George Floyd was murdered and we all witnessed that. I started attending like different town halls, and then my background is in social work, so I started attending just some mental health webinars, like, for social workers to be able to support the community. But one thing that kept coming up, and they didn't use this term, this is kind of just a Lisa term, was grieving society. But ultimately, with everything they were saying, so they like kept saying, like, we're seeing too much death, we're seeing too much hurt, we're seeing too many arrests, we're seeing too much injustices. Which, when I was hearing that, I was hearing, okay, we're a grieving society. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're living in. And so with that, I just want your personal opinion, your professional opinion. Like what does that even look like for you right now?
I mean, like we say, there's no way to look at somebody and tell what they're going through, right? What they're currently experiencing in life, what pain they have been through or are currently trying to work it through, or just feeling. So for me, that means that everybody is out here in pain from something.
Mm,
Um, um, Part of the reason that I started going back to therapy in May was because I wasn't feeling safe. And it was not only because of the
mm,
coronavirus, but it was because of course, Black men being pulled over by the police and ended up and dying from those experiences or those interactions. Same thing with Black women, other women of color. So that not only it was those very real present, dangers, but those triggered other things that I had been through, like abuse, sexual abuse, growing up,
mm,
where I didn't feel safe in spaces where I should have felt safe. So like I said, there's no way to look at somebody and to see all of those things, all of those deeply rooted things.
right.
So on top of just the things that we've been through in life, we're going through a collective loss of people who look like us, people who look like people we care about, disregard of their life, which equals disregard of our life, because that could be us, that could be someone that we love. So it's just a constant frame of we're sensitive, we're our anxiety is heightened and
Mm,
through the roof, we're in protection mode, defense mechanism mode all the time, and it's hard. It's hard, and but we're just expected
yeah.
to just take it and not do anything about it, not talk about it, not yell about it, scream about it, want to change it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with your answer. I do feel as if there is an expectation of it happens. So you should just deal with it. And I remember I actually had saw this on a young lady's Facebook page who like we actually had went to church together, but she was literally like, racism happens. Like what's all the process for? And to me it was like the insensitivity. Like, how dare
Mm-hmm.
you just say racism happens and we just like literally to dismiss a life, like literally to dismiss a community, literally to dismiss a group of people, like racism happens, like it. And she said it so well, we know that it's existed, so why? And like to me that upset me, like that upset me to the point where like
Mm-hmm.
you have no regard for nobody but yourself. And then like she had actually just had a baby, and I was like, I feel bad for your baby. Like that baby has you for a mother. Like you have no regard to
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. And I
Yeah.
think especially for like non-black people, and I definitely think for like people like me, like it is our time to advocate. It is our time to stand up. It is our time. Like I am one of those believers that like we should be fighting in front of like the black women and protecting them. Like it is our job to be doing it because it's been too long for
Mm-hmm.
like white women just to sit back. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's been too long, and I think that's the most easiest way I could say it is I just feel like people with like people who identify as a white women, and then people like myself who have the very very fair skin, like I mixed with white and Puerto Rican, like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen white privilege firsthand, and I've seen what being a white woman can do for you, like, and I'm like, we definitely should be sticking up at this point. There's like no reason why a grieving society should even be to the point that it is, because if you say you're an ally, if you say that you're that you want to see change, then you actually have to go in and do it. And that's why for
Mm-hmm.
me, discussing a grieving society is so important because it's too many out here. We're grieving too much. It's too many people that's hurt. And like I said, the fact that we're on social media, on news outlets, we see it every day. So at this
Yeah.
point, there's no excuse to say you don't see it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So okay, so I got sorry, I
Nah,
that
you
whew.
good. I mean that's real. 'Cause that is real. Those are
Yeah,
all facts.
yeah, and you know what? For the people that's watching, I just literally got done reading a book called Hood Feminism, and the author goes into that and she discusses like what white women feminism looks like versus like black women
Mm-hmm.
feminism, and it got so deep. Like, so if you are a white listener, I'm going to encourage you to check out Hood Feminism. She does such a good job at describing everything I just said, but she says it is so much more in depth, and she actually like gives you real life examples. So please,
Mm-hmm.
to especially my white women listeners, like please go out and read that. All right, so Dylan, still thinking about the grieving society. And I don't expect you to have all the answers to these questions. This is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just your everyday life. And if one of the questions you like, yeah, I just can't, just we can move on. But the next question, how can we handle our grief and fight for the injustices that's happening as we speak?
I don't know. Because sometimes it feels like when it comes to handling grief, you have to step away and step back from things. And since injustice is 24/7, it's always something. That's
Right.
kind of hard to, step away from or step back from. But I think the best thing to do is just to be aware of where you are, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, um, and to recognize when you're overwhelmed and when you need that time to yourself, and then just step back from it. It'll doing that will also give you the fuel or whatever you need to keep going. But I think it's absolutely necessary to have regular um, sabbaticals or time off to take care of yourself, tune in, lean in. Um,
Right.
but yeah, that's a good question.
I don't have an answer to that, and I don't know, but that is a question that I often ask the guests, like, because to me, with everything that we're doing and with all the work that we're putting in, like, have we came up with some suggestions? Have we came up with ways that maybe we can find an answer to that? Maybe there's not one solution, maybe there's multiple solutions, but I do think like that is a very deep question that, like, I think especially the leaders, but also like people in this grieving society can kind of come up with, like, how do we deal with our grief, but also fight these injustices? Because sometimes they can coexist, but sometimes, like you said, you just gotta step back. So what does that look like? So thank you for your
Yeah, so I think the
answers.
healing.
You have been
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think the healing part or grieving part has to be part of the fighting part as well. It has to be part of the plan, part of the strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and that's the key word, part of the strategy too, because I think a lot of times we try to fight these injustices, and inside we're hurt due to whatever we're dealing with, like due to what our experiences are. Maybe we've been incarcerated before, maybe we have been sexually assaulted, maybe we know somebody who's incarcerated right now based off of false charges. So it's like sometimes we do have to just recognize where we're at and then kind of take steps. And I always say baby steps are still steps. So if you were
Hmm.
out in the streets every day and then you got tired and you had to come back and then you had to slowly start doing something else. Like, I give the example when George Floyd was murdered. I was in New York and I was protesting for like 2 weeks straight. I had blisters up and down my feet, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
went to the doctor, and for those of y'all who don't know, I have diabetes. So I thought my foot was going to have to get cut off. I was like, please don't tell me my feet got to get cut off. But
Mm-hmm.
he was like, no, you just have a high arch the way you were walking. So now you have blisters. So that sent me to be on bed rest for 2 weeks. So mind you, protesting for 2 weeks, and then I was on bed rest for 2 weeks. But I'm not the type of person that's okay with when I know something out there is going on that I'm not
Right.
doing nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I was in my bed with my bandages on my blistered feet, and I was
Mm-hmm.
attending webinars. I found a couple trainings. I even had connected with some people out here in New York that were into like training younger people, like as young as middle school. So meeting with them every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to work, do like my Healing She Got Faith stuff, my virtual assistant stuff, and then would go to this training every Sunday. And I did it with them for like 2 weeks, teaching people how to vote, teaching people how to advocate, people teaching people how to lobby. And then also too, I was learning too, because some of the stuff that they
Mm-hmm.
had, I'm like, oh wow. So, and I
Right.
think that was one of the things, like, even though that particular situation was more physical than emotional, I still think of that as like an analogy that we can use, because sometimes your body will tell you you got to sit down. Sometimes your
Mm-hmm.
body will talk to you, and sometimes you just have to listen. And so with that, I I always remind myself, like, sometimes you do got to sit back and you just got to start back slowly. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
my body couldn't be on its feet, but my fingers still worked and the computer still worked and I had internet,
Yeah.
so I was able to do something different. So
Mm-hmm.
now to the fun part, because I want you to have time to talk about your documentary. I want you to give us the background. I know in the documentary you talk about the taboos with Black women and trauma, but honestly, I want you to just take this time. This is gonna be all about you. This is gonna be. I just want you to. I want to give you your flowers on this live, but I also want you to give yourself flowers because, and I'm telling you as a participant, this documentary is a game changer. So I want
Mm-hmm.
you to, speak on it and let people know where they can find it. Let people know how they can support you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not one to talk about myself, so if I if I stop, that's why. I'm just yeah, I just like making space and making room for other people. That's my thing. So it's definitely practice for me to do this. But yeah, so Black Girl Blue is a short documentary where 5 Black women talk about their mental health journeys, particularly the specific moments in their lives that led them to receive treatment or seek help. So some of those moments involve gun violence, family members that they lost, traumatic things in their childhood, and more. So we go through the process of what that looks like. What are some specific memories, very vivid, raw memories. And then we also talk to 2 Black female therapists about the particular mental health challenges that Black women face, specifically how the strong Black woman stereotype, or what has become an expectation, impacts our mental wellness, our healing, and just giving ourselves the grace that we need to get through crises or difficult moments in
Mm,
life. So they also offer tools for getting through some of those moments, and just encourage Black women to realize that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay
mm,
to sit in your pain and feel like that's okay, because we deserve healing. We deserve um, to acknowledge our pain and what we're going through. And I hope that the film is a tool to destigmatize mental health, to help people understand what having a mental health crisis is, to see Black women as not just these strong matriarchal figures that are able to take care of everything and everybody without having moments where they need help, where we need
mm,
to just be and heal and take care of ourselves. Um, I wanted to be a tool where we are able to be vulnerable about what we're going through. Because part of the reason that I made the film was because when my uncle passed away, like I mentioned earlier, I was depressed, and I had a conversation with a friend about it. And she basically told me that I was ungrateful for being depressed, that nobody has a reason to be depressed, and that I don't care what you're going
Wow.
through. So, and that wasn't the first time I heard things like that. When I had actually gone to therapy about the sexual abuse that I experienced as a child from another family member, and my therapist said, well, that person probably had it worse. I'm like, oh, okay, so you just invalidated everything that I went through, and here I'm again feeling like I can't share or process, and therefore I can't heal from what I'm going through because you just diminished it. So, um, this film was like my response to hearing things like that and being
Wow.
treated like our pain doesn't matter. If those times were the last time I can hear that, and hopefully another Black woman's last time because of this film, like that's the goal, that's the mission, and that's the what I see for it. So
Wow.
right now we're building a community for Black women to connect when it comes to their mental health, share their stories, receive mental health care. Um, Engage in activities that encourage them and teach them how to take care of themselves. Not just, bubble baths are fine. You getting your nails
Yeah.
and hair done are fine, but it's really, how do you talk to yourself? Um, how do you care for yourself when it comes to your emotions? Do you stuff things away? Do you express them to somebody or in some way and somehow? Do you tend to all the different parts of yourself, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual? So that's coming soon. And you can keep up with the film at blackgirlbleu.com. It's BlackGirlBleu.com. You can also learn more about the community there. And yeah, it's just a mission and a movement to make mental health less stigmatized and more, I guess, quote unquote, normal for Black women.
Wow. And that's the right link, right? Okay,
It
so the
is.
right okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna leave that up. Um wow, I wow. That when you said that, you sent me back to a time where I was in therapy discussing the situation, and it was, I think I was maybe talking to her about a relationship, and her first response was, but why would you even do that? Like, you're better than that.
Mm,
And I was
mm,
like, and it's so funny because I remember, like, I think I wrote a blog or something, and I was like, well, obviously I know I'm better than that. I'm here. I just want to know the why. Like,
exactly. You're
why
trying to
did,
figure out.
yeah, like,
Mhm,
like, obviously I want help. Like, obviously something clicked, but I want to figure out the root of it so it doesn't have to happen again.
exactly.
But but like, so picky, yeah, like, so what you
Mhm,
said is, and it just puts me in this space of remembering, like, Black and brown people have so many trust issues with doctors,
mhm,
mental health professionals, um like, it's just so much because the relationship has almost been non-existent. It's almost been too much. Like, if I go to the doctor, I might end up in a worse situation. If I go to therapy, I'm crazy, or I still feel like I'm not hurt.
mhm. And then I'm paying money not to be
So
heard. Like,
I might as well not heard, like, just literally, exactly. So that, man, but I'm excited for the virtual community. I think this is gonna be a game changer for St. Louis, and then I'm gonna say the nation.
yes.
I think it's gonna be such a game changer. I know for me personally, growing up as a white woman, like, I grew up with a white dad, Puerto Rican mom, then, like, I was raised by, like, all Black women, so, like, my mom's best friends, like, to this day. And guess
Mhm,
what? When my mom died, guess who was by me and my siblings' side? And when I watched the documentary, it reminded me a lot of, like, my aunties. Like, I have an aunt who she has witnessed so much death in her life, and I'm like, she constantly, even to this day, is like, if I'm not strong, then who else is gonna be? That mentality of like she has to be the one that upholds everybody else. And I like it used to drive me crazy with her, but now when I see her, I just give her a hug. Like, and literally after watching that documentary, like I just call her like, Auntie, I love you. Like I just want you to know that I love you and I appreciate you. Like, because I feel like she's always putting on this strong front. Like, even I've never seen that woman cry. Like, that woman lost a husband, she lost a daughter. When she got to my mom's funeral, she bawled her eyes out, and I've never seen her go through that. And so like now I just try to call her like, I'm thinking of you, I love you. And it was honestly because I wasn't able to look at it from her perspective until I was able to sit down. And this is me just speaking mostly to like white women and like women that are my color. Like, I think a lot of times we try to be too outspoken instead of listening to experiences. And I think a lot of times it is us just trying to have an answer for a situation we never even knew about. And so for me, I was able to kind of reflect and go back and look at like the black women in my life and look like I have two black nieces and like really understand that like there will be experiences that the black women in my life have that I would never have ever. And so being able to hear that and being able to provide a space of like vulnerability, love, hugs, tears, because I do know documentary we do witness speakers crying, and I think that was such a moment in that documentary to see somebody be able to just express her tears of something that happened and something that she's like, I'm just now able to really talk about and get the help for and being comfortable in your tears. Because, you know, being on camera ain't easy, but then to be on camera talking about, which I talk about in the documentary, it's something so different. So I definitely appreciate everything. Like, I know I tell you all the time, but definitely, like, I definitely just appreciate everything. Like I'm so excited for this. You know, let us know how we can help and support you in any kind of way. If you want to, you can let people know how to connect with you on all social media, email. I do got the website up right here. I could possibly, let me see, put it in the comments, your Facebook, Instagram. So just kind of let the people know how they can contact you. Just, you know, again, give yourself flowers.
Okay. So if you go to blackgirlblue.com, there will be links to the Facebook page as well as the Instagram page, which is all Black Girl Blue, spelled just like the website here. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sharee Silerio. Yeah, just know that some things are coming up soon. I'm still receiving donations for the mental health fund, which will support the women in the virtual community, help them cover their mental health care costs. So Black Girl Blue is the website to keep abreast of all the updates and amazing things happening.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm gonna put the connections into the comments so we can go. And this the last name is Silerio.
Silerio. Yeah.
Okay. So this is in the comments. Alrighty. So Miss Sharee, thank you so much for your time today. I am so excited. We cannot wait to see this documentary. So I always end with a quote, which is why when we first initially set this up, I always ask for a quote from the speaker. And let me just say, this quote fits with Healing She Got Faith so well. So my quote, and it's on my logo and everything, is love you the way you love the world, okay? When Miss Sharee sent me her quote literally is, you deserve the love that you give. Oh my goodness. When I say I was so hyped reading it, it's so perfect. It is so perfect. Oh my goodness. I appreciate you. I appreciate that quote. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking this time out on a Wednesday to go live with us. You are welcome back anytime. If you have any other events, you let me know. We'll promote for you. We'll bring you back on a live. We'll do a video. You let me know how I can support you in that. But yeah, but thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you go check out Black Girl Blue. Be on the lookout. Make sure you sign up for anything you can to help for anything you can to help Black Girl Blue. Bye.
All right. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for watching.
Of course.